All right, welcome back to another video on fish. In this video, we are going to talk about constraining cardinality on a data element. So here on the screen here, you can see on the left is the base FHIR profile from R4B. You can tell here that many of these data elements, or in general, data elements in the base FHIR are usually optional. As you can tell from the cardinality, there is all zeros in the beginning. And on the right-hand side is an example of the US core profile. And you can see there's a lot more opinions about which data elements are required because in the cardinality, there's these ones. There's also these like S's in red for must support. So we're going to use US core as an example and then teach you guys how we can do some very basic constraining on cardinality. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to Google and I'm going to go pull up US core patient FHIR. So you guys can kind of follow along with me. This is the example, and we're just going to borrow from this example to see if we can copy some of the basics. We're going to ignore all these extensions. We'll talk about that in a later video, but we're going to do some of these basic constraints to show you how you do that in Fish. All right, so to do this, the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to go to a tool called Simplifier. So I have Google here, Simplifier. It's a tool from Firely. Oops, that's not what I want to do. Simplifier.net. Actually, Simplifier Fish is what I wanted to do. So it's called Fish Playground. It's a web-based tool, one of the best tools, in my opinion, for learning, but also very rapid development and syntax checking for Fish. Great for learning because it renders on the right-hand side. So you see what I mean as I go through this. We're going to go through our three basic things here, and I'm just going to type out these comments, which you can do with these forward slashes. We're going to do our declaration up top. Then we're going to do our keywords over here, and then we're going to do some rules here as well. And just a note for Fish, whenever I write Fish, I personally like to add a bunch of comments to make sure I can just add little notes and annotations. Can get unwieldy, so we want to avoid that. But some of these help the readers of Fish at times, and even yourself when you want to make certain opinions about a particular data model. So I really like to add comments. More documentation is always better. All right, so in the very beginning, we want to do a declaration. I'm going to create a profile for patient. So I'm going to call this on the right-hand side, my patient profile. Parent, all profiles must be derived from some parent resource. It could be either a base R4 or some base FHIR profile. It could be from even another profile like US Core. It can be from your own profile. So later on, I can do a parent using this profile if I wanted to. And a reason of doing that is because all the constraints from a parent profile will automatically get inherited into your new profile. So then you don't have to redefine those constraints again. So in this case, I'm going to start off with just defining my parent profile as patient and give it an ID. Everything after parent actually isn't needed in terms of keywords. And let me actually go down here to do it like this. Parent, patient. So everything else you don't need, but so let me actually just run it so I can show you. So now it doesn't error out. Those are the minimum pieces of data that you need, but we're going to always add more here. So next is I'm going to add ID. It's always good practice to do this kebab case where you have all lowercase with hyphen separating each word. Add a title, my patient profile, and then add a description to kind of describe your profile. This is a patient profile that will align with US core patient. All right, perfect. So now let's start with our rules. So let's start off with, let's take a look at US core. We have identifier, system, and value. So these are all ones. And then of note, if you want to keep in mind, everything is derived from this parent. So even in the base R4, there's an asterisk. So we only need to add the beginning Same here. We only need to add the beginning. So it's actually redundant to specify this one. We don't need to add that one. So you're going to just see me type in these one dot dots here. So let's do that for identifier, and they all must support. We'll toggle back over here. And so I'm going to type, always start with a asterisk, type in the data element, and then you type in the cardinality. So I don't need to type in this asterisk because that's redundant, because the patient profile already has that. So I can just do this. There is a must support, and must support, I'm not going to go into the deep definition of it, but basically must support just means that this a data element, if populated, must be supported by downstream systems. You can read more about it on the FHIR spec if you want to, but I'm just teaching you how to constrain data elements right now, so I'm not going to go into that. Identifier, then next thing is identifier.system, and this is also 1.1 and must support. Then there is identifier.value, which is also the same, and then we can just do double check. And so we can see we have something already very similar to US core that you can see over here. I'm going to go back here, and something to note, Fish has this nice thing because it's called FHIR Shorthand, so they want to make this fast for you. There's something called nested rules, and what nested rules does is you can use white spaces to confer context. So in this case, I don't actually have to retype identifier. I can actually just space over 2 times and then start with the next data element, and it knows that system is from identifier. So you can see this will still work over here. So that's really nice. It's just a very quick way and a great experience when typing here. Another thing just to quickly point out, I forgot to mention earlier, is that Fish is great because if you make mistakes, you can use this to very quickly develop on it, because it will check your syntax and render it right away. So I love using Simplifier for checking basic syntax and just experimenting with different things. All right, let's proceed. Let's do name next. And I'm actually just going to have US Core open here on the right, and then I'm just going to build them out on the left here. So I have my identifier. Then I'm going to do name next, which is 1.1. It's a must support. I have my uh, these nested rules. So I can use. Oh, actually, use is not one of those. It's going to be family next. And then family is, there's no requirement for that. So it's only a must support. Same with given, it's only a must support. And then, by the way, you don't have to do this space if you don't want to. I'm just doing it because I like the look of it. So completely up to you. Telecom is not must support or required. It's actually the next one over is system, which is one must support, and value 1 must support. There you go. And let's see how it looks. So we got name, identifier. It looks pretty good. And it looks like it mirrors US core over here. I'm actually going to stop at the next part, which will just be to show you deceased. And what I want to show you with deceased is how you can constrain this value X pattern. So certain data elements has this X, which means it can take on more than one data type. In this case, you have a Boolean or a date time. Let's say we wanted to keep something simple. We don't want the date time. We just want to know if it's true or false a patient is deceased. And that's the only value we want. We don't want the date. And to do that, I'm going to show you how you do that in Fish. So over here, right now, let's say we brought in deceased. Let's say this is a must support, or rather 1.1. If I hit play, you can see right now it shows deceased, but it's not constrained to any specific data element. What you would actually do is you would type in the data element that you want to constrain it to. And actually, you should start with it first. And so in this case, I want to only use the Boolean type. So in that case, when you do that, now deceased is only constrained to Boolean. And that's how you do it. And that is the end of the basics of constraining data elements.